Hey YouTube, I'm bombkangaroo and I'd like to talk to you about thermal interface material. Now, thermal interface material is the compound which is placed between a CPU or central processing unit and the heatsink assembly, which traditionally gets attached on top of it to dissipate the heat which the chip generates. Now, there's a certain amount of controversy in the comments of the video I'm replying to as to exactly how much T.I.M that you should use on a modern CPU. Now, in order to establish what's best, you have to understand exactly what T.I.M is and what it does. T.I.M, thermal interface material, is designed to conduct heat away from your chip and into the heatsink, where it is then dissipated into the air. Now, one thing you've got to remember about heat is that, like energy of any type, it meets with resistance the more material it has to pass through. So, naturally, using a larger amount of thermal interface material causes greater resistance between the chip and the heatsink. Okay, now, so what exactly constitutes too much thermal interface material? Well, pretty much anything that prevents effective heat transfer and causes your processor to overheat and your computer to shut down, or the processor to become damaged, which may prevent you from actually being able to use it in the future. It takes quite a lot of thermal interface material to do that. So, as such, too much is really a lot. That said, any amount more than you need is suboptimal. How much do you need? Well, the optimal amount of thermal interface material is only enough to literally to plug the microscopic gaps between your heatsink and the metal plate on top of the processor. Anything more than that is suboptimal, since it then needlessly impedes heat transfer. Now, obviously, too little T.I.M is going to cause you problems as well. That's also going to prevent effective heat transfer. Too little is basically anything that leaves unnecessary gaps between the metal plate on top of your processor and your heatsink assembly. Okay, so in the video I'm replying to, why would they use so much thermal interface material? Well, the answer is very simple. These machines are manufactured, large scale. This is a big operation. They make loads of them. As such, if you're applying a very small amount of thermal interface material to the heatsink assembly and the processor in these machines, then over a longer time you do have a greater risk of not using enough. The reason they use so much, I believe at least, I'm speculating here, I don't know the reasoning behind it, but I'm going to take a guess, is simply because it's a lot harder to use too much than it is to use too little. Obviously, if you use too little, that's pretty much it. But honestly, you'd have to put it on probably some kind of a trowel or a shovel or something in order to get to a point where you're preventing the machine from working, or otherwise getting electrically conductive T.I.M actually into the land grid array where the chip is seated, which again is, you would have to put that on with a trowel. Okay, so in conclusion, essentially, less T.I.M is better, but less safe. More T.I.M is generally a safer bet, but it's suboptimal. Also, in one of these directions, you'll find the video description. I'll try to post some videos, links to somebody else's videos on applying thermal paste to a CPU and heatsink assembly for anyone interested.